Greetings, everyone, and welcome to We Are ACEDS, streaming live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. My name is Mike Quartararo. I'm the president of ACEDS. We do these little live stream events, broadcasts every once in a while to feature our partners and bring news and information to the community. Today, we are joined by my dear friend, Sal Mancuso, Vice President of eDiscovery Operations and Products at Conduent. For those who don't know, Conduent is a leading and trusted end-to-end eDiscovery and legal technology solutions provider. You can learn more about Conduent at conduent.com. And I'm waiting for Sal to join us. There he is. Mr. Mancuso, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. By way of just why we're here, Conduent is a big affiliate partner of ACEDS. And one of the things we always like to try to do is add value to the eDiscovery industry and our membership, of course, by highlighting our partners, their products, their services, and their superstars. Sal Mancuso, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for making time. I want to start by asking you, I mean, you've been in this business, you and I have been in this business for a long, long time, longer than we care to admit, I know at times. But for those who do not know, tell us a little about you and your origin story and how you come to work in what we now call eDiscovery.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. Well, you and I have talked about this many times.
That's a lot,
before.
right?
Yeah. Well, it started a long time ago, and I mean, I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew exactly what I was going to do when I first started on this journey. Like you, we didn't know, right? But we knew what we enjoy doing, and there's something to be said about that old adage: make sure whatever it is that you do for a career, you love what you do, and I certainly do. I don't know. I started humbly on the law firm side of the business. It was certainly not called or referred to as eDiscovery back then. We're talking about late 80s, if I may date myself, and I was really chasing a career in legal. I quickly realized that maybe there was an opportunity to kind of help do away with some of the inefficiencies that I was seeing on large, complex litigations. And that's really the humble beginning. It wasn't until I started doing that I realized I needed to do something more, right? It's always that ambition to learn as much as you can and perfect what it is that you're doing, so you're not always having to, fix the things that you once learned about. So technology was a big part of that upbringing, and I decided to go seek out a formal education and got myself a master's degree in information systems. But yeah, the vast majority of my years were spent on the law firm side.
So I think it's fascinating because you and I have certain parallels in our careers, and we both started sort of working in this space like before the computer was even really like a mainstay at everyone's desk. And then
Correct.
I call it a revolution because it just changed the whole industry. We started thinking about, I mean, you and I have done discovery in paper form.
Yes, certainly.
Purely paper form, right? We weren't even scanning and coding. We were just exchanging paper, making multiple copies of paper.
It's incredible.
And yeah, computers, I want to say the mid 90s, computers started appearing on everyone's desk. And then next thing, people had a BlackBerry. And it's been this whole, I call it a revolution because it's just changed everything and provided so much of that opportunity. Do you feel that the rise of technology sort of propelled you in a certain direction and there was no turning back? Because that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, 100% correct. As you're bringing me back, the phrasing that I always think about was search and retrieval. It was always about making our lives easier and, call it being selfish. Maybe, I wanted to get home at a decent time and not put in the 24-hour blocks of time. So yeah, it was always about driving efficiencies, but technology got us there. And so 100% true. I agree with you.
And I remember training paralegals too to take the box off the shelf, open the box, take the document out of the box, flag where the document was, make the copy, put the original back and take the copy.
Yeah, that's right. And remember, so that you knew exactly where that document was, because most likely the attorney is going to call for it again.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, there's obviously a ton of marquee names in the eDiscovery space, in terms of companies that provide services and software. And I think that a lot of people, Conduent to a certain extent flies under the radar. A lot of people don't associate it immediately with eDiscovery. Tell us a little bit about the origin of the company and the sort of the spectrum of services and software offerings at Conduent.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start by telling you that I've been with the company for 2 years, and Conduent proper, as I like to call it, is a well-established BPO provider in the market, and they're a global entity in terms of the services, or I should say, the different business divisions that make up Conduent. We at Conduent, the specific division is legal, compliance, and analytics. That is the business unit that I work within. It's a fascinating story, Mike. When I first started, I too kind of looked at the name and said, well, why do I know this name, and what should I know about them? And I was quickly pointed in the direction of the old Xerox XLS days. So if you recall, Xerox made a splash in the market many, many years ago, and through a few key acquisitions, Amiki being one. I know I'm dating myself again there, and you would probably remember that name. Lateral Data, Smart Data. So that's who we are. We too, like Conduent proper, are well-established eDiscovery and legal ops service and product provider in the legal technology space. And that story is one that we like to tell. We like to talk about it.
I think it's really important, and use an acronym. And I love calling people out on acronyms. BPO is business process outsourcing, and that's kind of what I've always kind of traditionally associated Conduent with. But as I've grown to know the company, and obviously since you've been there, I've learned a lot more. And via the partnership with ACEDS, I learned more and more. I've come to recognize it as a leader in the space. So congrats on that. Let's shift a little bit to the future and what's new at Conduent in terms of product surface offerings. What can you tell us about the product roadmap and what's new and current?
Yeah, another one of my favorite things to talk about. First and foremost, I have to tell you the environment, the culture here at Conduent is a very positive one, where it's great to be a part of an organization that absolutely takes the interest of our clients as important as we should, right? So it's at the forefront. So a lot of what we do is directed by the market, by our clients, which is common, right, and should be for everyone else in this space. But we certainly are no different. And many of the folks that make up the workforce are tried and true. They've been here with the company as long as the company's been around. And so with that, as I mentioned before, we're both in the eDiscovery space, but also we play in the legal operations space, right? So I'll talk about legal ops first. We have two tools that we have been promoting for the last couple of years that are doing quite well in the marketplace in contract analytics and legal invoice analytics. We use the short name of LEA, and they're great at what they do. So it's what makes them different is the analytics that we've built in and how we report on the data itself. Moving away from that, eDiscovery for us is tried and true, right? Our service lines go right from forensic all the way on through to production. There's not much we don't do in that in between. We do have managed review, which we have a lot of pride in. Where we have a managed review footprint that's both domestic and offshore. Like some of our competitors, our domestic footprint is both the US and UK, and offshore we're out in India. What makes that offering slightly different than some of the others out there is that the offshore offering, these are our folks, these are our employees, and these folks are fantastic at what they do. So you're not having to deal with any of the gaps that you may be confronted with if, let's say, you have repeat business from the same client. You're always bolstering that foundation of work and understanding of how your client's data looks and what it's telling you, so that you can kind of leverage that as you're going forward. It's always about making this, as you know, Mike, as cost effective and as streamlined as possible. We've also, about 2 years ago, launched our post data breach response work, which is a culmination of both our eDiscovery and, well, I say eDiscovery, our tech in that space, but also our managed review space. And we do quite well in that space. And in a little bit, I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing going forward. But I didn't want to, I would be remiss not to mention our product on the eDiscovery space. So I'm actually quite excited about this part. And it's one of the reasons why I joined. So we're Viewpoint. And many people don't associate us with it. Some do, some don't. So that would have come to us with one of the acquisitions that Xerox had made back in the day.
I was going to say, for those who don't know, Viewpoint is that legacy Xerox tool from I want to say 10 years ago.
Well, it's lateral data, right? And it came into Xerox, and we still haven't, and we're 100% behind the product. I've fielded questions since starting at Conduent as to whether or not that's been sunset, whether or not we're still behind it. And I'm here to tell you, and whoever else is on this live stream, that it's 100% true. We're fully vested in the product and
not
continue to develop. No, it's not. It's great, and we have some great clients in that space, and we learn a lot from them. But there's a lot more to come in terms of what we're doing with Viewpoint.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I want to ask you a question, just a sideline for a minute, and that is, so you're one of many people that I know in the space who have sort of transitioned in your career from the law firm life. It's a two-parter, actually. Is it your sense that the roles that you and I used to have at law firms, the sort of eDiscovery, litigation support, leadership roles, are those diminishing? And then the second part of that question is, because I'm sure many people listening today are thinking about, what's the next move? Should they transition to a vendor or a corporate or the government? So I was hoping you could answer the first question and then talk about what it's like to make that transition and just share some of your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great area to cover. And it's something that I know you and I are quite passionate about, right? Paying it forward and making sure we're paving the way and making sure others are not having to repeat our mistakes, certainly. And before I address it, I just want to commend you for your dedication to the formal educational side of this business. ACEDS being, at the forefront of all that. And I tell you, it's a tremendous effort that you, ACEDS, and everyone involved have put in.
I just realized that what I'd been doing at the firm was really just educational anyway. So
exactly, and you made it a living, right? So it's awesome. Yeah, for me, it's interesting. The way I'll reflect on what you asked is, for me, it was a little different. It was always building on what I was learning and doing more, and that ambition was always there. So I wanted to learn as much as I could, perfect the practice. I actually call it a practice, just like a lawyer would, right? Yeah, they're in a litigation practice, right? We're in the practice of eDiscovery, the practice of eDiscovery best practices. I have a very low tolerance level of inefficiencies. And for me, it's always about doing more. So it made sense for me to kind of, take that next step. I didn't see myself growing anymore on the law firm side, but that doesn't mean that there's not a play there for any individuals who are currently there or want to make a move to a law firm, because they're tried and true. There are folks that have been doing this as long as you and I that are still on the law firm side and doing quite well in terms of being satisfied with their career paths. It's a well-established career path. For me, I made the pivot to the service provider side to continue growing and growing at what I was doing. And, I found it to be a good way to kind of leverage everything that I had learned, both the legal side and the technology side, and make it more of a consultancy and kind of establish that practice as a service offering, if you will, and differentiate it from maybe some of the others, right? If you think about it, I was also a consumer of the same services and products we're talking about. And so now when you flip that role, I kind of was opinionated then. I'm even more opinionated now as to how that should work, right? So it worked for me, but I have to tell you, there's so many ways an individual can hit this career path. You can come in from the legal side, JD or no JD. You can hit it from the pure technology side, and everything in between. I used to always, say, and I think you and I have talked about this before, where I think I flipped on this paradigm. Do I hire tech first and teach them the legal, or do I do it the opposite way?
Yeah, no, it's always been a fascinating thing. I'm going to tell you what I miss, but what do you miss most about the law firm? And I'll tell you up front, I don't miss entering time in a timekeeping system.
I don't either. Yeah, and it's funny. What I realize is the more senior you get in any, whether you're in a law firm or not, the less likely you're going to have to put that time in. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't be accountable for your team's time, right?
Well, it also comes down to chasing after the people who didn't enter their time. So
that's true. That becomes part of what you do.
Whether it was litigation support or paralegals or whatever, it just was always the one thing that I hated on the law firm side. But it's
I don't know. There's not much. I mean, I find a lot of the same. In fact, maybe this is the answer, right? I've continued to move along to seek out a place where I can kind of still get the feel that I got at the law firm side. So what I enjoyed about the law firm side was the camaraderie and the connection I had to the practice and how they were developing their practice, right? You know that.
The consultative piece. That's
absolutely. Yeah.
That's what everybody likes about it. That's why there's so many consultants in the space.
Absolutely. And then for me, having made the move, I didn't want to lose that part of it. So I sought out a similar, spot for myself. And kind of really, to me, is that culmination of both the business side, but also the legal / technology side of the business, right? We're solutions architects, and then there's a business behind it that you need to be true to.
No, that's exactly right. All right, let's shift gears a little bit, because I'm always keen to ask people about, all the activity in the space. There's been a ton of mergers and acquisitions in our space, legal technology in general. What are your thoughts on the sustainability of the M&A activity we're seeing? Can the current pace continue, or will all the venture and private equity money dry up eventually?
I think we'll continue just by the sheer fact that technology continues to evolve. There's a ton of revenue in this space. We're in the billions of dollars that this industry generates. And so long as that is true, and this is my commentary, by the way, a personal commentary on the industry, that, it's business 101. You're going to continue to chase that. There's just so many ways you can generate new revenue. And this is not an eDiscovery phenomena. This is business 101. And that is, you can either go acquire it, or you can kind of go build it, or you can do both. And so I don't see that drying up. No. And look, it's been fascinating to see over the years of who's been gobbling up who, but no, I don't see that going away. What I think will be interesting is to see how it's driving the technological solutions. We saw some of that towards the end of last year, without naming names, but how certain analytic tools were both acquired to perfect something. And that, to me, outside of anything I do for Conduent, is awesome. That means the industry continues to grow. So I don't see it going away.
Yeah, I don't see it stopping either. I think we're on an interesting ride. It's going to be more interesting as we go. All right, before we head out, anything that's coming up? Anything interesting? Any new things you're doing? Are you doing any traveling? Any conferences on the roadmap? What's anything you'd like to share with us to sort of highlight where Conduent is going to be next?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that question. Well, this year we kind of earmarked the year for us to kind of reestablish our brand, but not doing so by who we were, but who we are. We're extremely proud of who we are, both as the LCA division, but also as part of Conduent. It's a fantastic organization, just over 60,000 employees strong. And so we started out 2022 to kind of get that message out. It started with Legal Week. We were at Clock. Yours truly will be at Net Diligence in Philadelphia next week, in fact. And that's where that data breach response market exists. So we now play in that market, and we're going to be a part of that. And we're looking at some other conferences to round off the year. It's important for us to kind of do that. And look, our partnership with ACEDS has been equally important for us. We believe in what you all are doing, and it's nice to know that you've given us this platform to kind of talk about us.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Happy to do it. All right, this has been great. A conversation as brief as it may have been with Sal Mancuso, Vice President of eDiscovery Operations and Products at Conduent. Thank you so much, Sal, for making time.
Thank you, Mike,
for joining us. And we will see you next time on We Are ACEDS Live.